Only ego suffers. The only part of you that ever suffers is your ego. Now, let me differentiate pain from suffering to make this very clear. This is not to say that you cannot have mental, physical, or emotional pain. You absolutely can and probably do regularly. But pain is different from suffering. Think of it this way. You stub your toe and it hurts. And you say, ow, and maybe some choice expletives. And then you start saying, why did I do this? I always do this. Why me? Why now? And you go into that suffering mode. That's the ego. That is not just the physical pain. That is the identification of you as this thing that shouldn't have this pain. It is the ego that is saying what is should not be, and that is what creates suffering. Again, thinking what is should not be is how the ego creates suffering out of pain or whatever else it uses, generally pain. So when we understand that only the ego suffers, let's not go straight into a form of emotional avoidance where we use our intellect to ignore our feelings. So, if you notice that your ego is suffering, please refrain from an attempt to bury that suffering with the idea, oh, that's just my ego, and ignore it. Okay, your ego is a thing, and your ego has its experience, and when you try to avoid dealing with it, you're doing this classic thing that people do where it's kind of like, I try to act enlightened to be enlightened. I try to act spiritual to be spiritual. It's this fake it till you make it spirituality thing. Doesn't really work that well in general. So realize that your ego is a real thing. Be nice to your ego. And realize this. When you are being nice to your ego, you're not really being your ego, right? You're being kind of above the ego, being nice to the little ego, right? It's like when you're being nice to your inner child, you're not really stuck in inner child mode. You're actually above inner child mode. You're in inner adult mode, and you're being nice to the inner child. And that starts actually transforming your energy in a really great way. Okay, so there is a kind of spiritual bypassing where we understand these principles of spiritual awakening, enlightenment, blah, blah, blah. And we try to act that way and hope that it kind of sticks. But really, it's just another form of denial. And it doesn't really achieve much. So, only your ego suffers. But that doesn't mean to ignore it and to write it off as, oh, that's just my ego suffering, it's not me, it's fine. As long as you're not fully enlightened, you have an ego. As long as you have an ego, it's best not to ignore it. You need to work with it. again, think of your ego as like an inner child aspect, and realize that as you're nice to it, you're healing it. And that's good to know. So work with that. Let me know how it works in the comments. And please like and subscribe if you are called to. And if you would like to work with me directly, you can email me at andysway@yahoo.com, or check out my website, andysway.com, andysway.com. Thanks for watching. Bye.